Hello, I'm Dick Kruger from the University of Minnesota. We're glad you're with us today because we're going to be conducting a focus group. The topic is on airline travel, and we've invited a number of people who have traveled by airplane over the past few years to join us for a discussion. And we're going to be talking about experiences and inconveniences they've faced in their airline travel over the past few years. This is a video to show some of the aspects of moderating in a focus group, but many things have occurred before the actual beginning of the focus group. You've tried to identify the relevant participants. You've recruited the participants to come. You've arranged for the logistics and you developed the questions. All of these things take place before the focus group. But now the moment has arrived. In a few minutes, people will be coming and joining us in the group. And you'll see several scenes depicting some of the important parts that take place in the focus group. What to do when people arrive at the focus group. How a moderator handles people who talk at great length and you want them to stop. Or how people may not talk very much and you want to encourage them to say more. We'll be demonstrating some of the ways of using questions in a focus group and how to close a focus group. All of these things are experiences that take place in a focus group, and we're glad that you're able to join us. Now, in this video, it could be used in a variety of ways. You may want to watch it in its entirety from beginning to end to see how a focus group works, or you may want to stop it and start it at various points and have discussion about various parts. We hope this is helpful to you. Thank you for joining us. This room is going to work quite well. We've arrived early and checked out the room. The table, the chairs, the flip chart, the food, everything looks satisfactory. Now we're in the process of setting up the recording equipment. We have a tape recorder and a remote microphone. The microphone goes in the middle of the table with a cord off to the side. And the tape recorder goes to the back. The lunches are put on the table behind so that people can pick them up when they arrive. We have name tents that we've prepared in advance, and we place those who may be more talkative or have more domineering personalities close to the moderator. Those who are quieter are put directly across. Once we've done all this, we do a quick sound check of the equipment by walking around the table and talking in a normal tone of voice to be sure that the microphone and tape recorder are working adequately. The room is set up, and now we're ready for people to join us. In just a moment, they will arrive. Notice how people are welcomed into the focus group.
Hi, is this the focus group?
Yes, I'm Dick Kruger.
Hi, Jean King.
Nice to meet you.
Marianne Casey.
Marianne, Jean.
Nice to meet you.
And we've got some food over here on the
Excellent.
side. Help yourself.
Always
Join
good.
us.
Nice, now where am I going to sit?
We got a place for you right over there
Okay,
to
I'm
the
going to
side.
drop this off. Jean.
Hi.
Hi, Marianne Casey.
This is the focus group, right?
That's right. I'm on airline travel.
Yes.
Dick Kruger's my name.
Sherry Peterson.
Glad to have you here.
Glad to meet you.
Take a lunch, please, and join us.
Thank
We've
you.
got a place for you.
Am I in the right place?
This is it.
Ken Bartlett.
Oh, nice to have you with us. The moderator is about to begin the actual focus group. This introduction is short and snappy and covers 4 points: a welcome and introduction to the topic, some background on the topic, ground rules for the focus group, and the opening question. Well, good afternoon and welcome to our session. My name is Dick Kruger and I'm with the Happy Traveler Research Agency, and we're pleased you could all join us today for our focus group. We've invited you to join our discussion on airline travel. Today we're going to be talking about experiences that you've had in traveling by airplane. Experiences that within the last few years. We're going to be talking about things that have worked well for you, things you've enjoyed, as well as things that haven't gone so well. This study is being done at the request of the airline industry. As you may know, people have had a variety of experiences, and airline industries regularly are trying to improve the quality of their service. And so at the end of our study, we're going to be sharing information back with them. Also, if you're interested, we'll have a copy of the report available to you as well. Let us know if that's something that you're interested in. You were selected because you were among a group of people who have traveled fairly often over the past few years, and we're glad you're here for our group. As I indicated, my name is Dick Kruger. I'm with the Happy Traveler Research Agency, and my colleague is Mary Ann Casey, and she'll be taking notes and helping record the conversation. We're going to be tape recording today. We have a microphone in the middle of the room, and then we tape record so we don't miss any of the comments. Oftentimes people say things so well, we're not able to write them down quickly enough, and the tape recorder helps us capture those. There's just a couple ground rules that might help us. If you have a cell phone, we'd appreciate if you turn it off or turn it on the quiet mode. If you do need to respond to it, please step out, but then come back in as soon as possible. We have more refreshments and some chocolate over there at the side table, so help yourself to that whenever you feel a need for those things. There are no wrong answers today in our conversation. Many people have different experiences with airline travel, and so feel free to comment even if your thoughts and ideas or experiences are different from what others have to say. My job is to guide the conversation and to keep us on time and be sure that we finish at the end of our allotted 2 hours today. And so along the way, I may interrupt, I may push us along a little bit faster. That's so that we can finish our conversation on time. Well, let's take a moment. Also, by the way, we're going to be on a first name basis. We have name tents with our first names on. Let's take a moment and go around the table and find out who you are. And would you tell us your name, and then also tell us where you've traveled to by airplane in the last year? And would you name some of the cities that you've traveled to? And would you start?
I'm Jim Brown, and in the last year I've traveled.
At the beginning of a focus group, most comments are directed directly to the moderator. But as the focus group continues, the moderator will try to get people to look across the table and speak to the other participants. This is a good sign and something to be desired in your focus groups. One of the effective techniques of moderating is to use a short pause, usually about 5 seconds. This allows participants a chance to reflect and think and a chance to express their thoughts. Okay, well, let's get started with the questions in our focus group. The first one, and we're not going to go around the table, and anyone can answer this who chooses. Tell me this. What do you like about airline travel?
Oh, I can start, Dick. I like that it gets me between two places relatively quickly.
When moderating a focus group, you'll find that some people talk too much and ramble on about a topic, and you'll need to have a strategy for how to deal with this. Here's an example of what you do when a person talks too much and how the moderator redirects the question to another participant. All right, well, let's talk about inconveniences. In your experiences with airline travel, you may have encountered an inconvenience. May have been in the last year or a little bit before. Would you tell me about an inconvenience you've had?
Well, let me tell you, it's always around baggage, and it seems to me that there's always something that happens with my baggage when I travel. I was coming back from Bangkok. I was meant to get my baggage in LA to take it through immigration, and when I got there, couldn't find it anywhere. It just wasn't there, and I stood there and stood there and stood there, and I went behind the counter to the counter, and they said, well, you know, it's just not there, and it'll turn up eventually, and maybe it'll turn up in Minneapolis. But it's just been one long string of things after another. I mean, the baggage is always too large to fit in the overhead bin, but it's even worse when you're traveling by train, because when you're traveling by train, you have to get the baggage up from the platform, and then you have to haul it into the coach, and then you're pulling it all the way down the coach in order to get to your seat on the train, and there's never anyone there to help you.
Yeah, that can be a problem. Let's hear from some others in the group. Francis, how about you? Have you had an experience with an inconvenience?
Well, I haven't had a problem with luggage because I always...
Sometimes participants do not talk very much in a focus group. One of the strategies that moderators can use is to look at those individuals and at times call on them and invite their comments. Here's an example of how it works. Sherry, we haven't heard from you on this. What are the things that you don't like about airline travel?
Well, mostly two things, luggage and children.
Tell me about each of those. Tell me about luggage and tell me about children.
Well, with luggage, you never know if they're going to accept your carry-on or not. In some airlines, even in the same airline, sometimes the carry-on fits. They say it will fit in the overhead, and other times they take it away from me, and then I have to check it. So even though I think it's standard size, sometimes it doesn't.
One of the things that happens in a focus group is there are key moments when people start to own the group or feel like they are a group and in a discussion. Here's an example. When these things occur, moderators often encourage these and allow people to talk across the table to each other. All right.
You know, I want to say something else about luggage, and it relates to when planes are late. You never know if your bags will make it. And sometimes it's not your fault. You've checked it. You've done what you're supposed to do, and then they mess it up, and then you get there. You don't have, so I carry now a lot of things in my carry-on because I just have to assume it won't make it.
I never check anything. I always carry on. Never check it.
Because you just can't.
I never trust it.
One of the techniques that moderators use is to ask participants to play a role. This is particularly effective when you're trying to get people to discuss and talk about a complex idea that is best described by actually acting it out or playing a role. Let's see how it works. Okay, let's talk about inconveniences, things that have happened to you and along the way. Jim, have you had inconvenience?
I had one of the probably major inconveniences, traumas of my life when I landed at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, got off the plane to start down this huge airport to the connecting flight to Edinburgh, and I realized my wallet wasn't in my rear pocket where it normally resides. And I immediately went to someone who worked for that same airline, and they wouldn't deal with me. I mean, they essentially, here's a number to call. I called that number. They weren't open on Sundays. No one, I couldn't get any response. There was no one. The normal procedures were shut down for one of probably the major flying days of the week. And I was left not only worrying about what I was going to do next, but what I should be doing, what you try to do under these circumstances.
It sounds like you wanted them to do some more things for you.
I wanted them to respond.
Let's talk about that a bit. Ken, let's pretend that you lost your wallet, and now Jim works for the airline company. And Jim, you're going to demonstrate how you would like the airline to respond when Ken loses his wallet. So, Ken, would you turn to Jim and make your complaint?
Excuse me, sir. I've just come off Northwest flight 43 from Minneapolis, and I don't have my wallet with me, and I think I had my wallet when I got on the aircraft.
Did you tell anyone on the plane?
No, I just realized now when I walked off the plane.
What plane were you on?
Like I just
43?
said, 43 from Minneapolis.
Well, let me get on the phone. I'm going to call the gate. I'll have someone go on the plane. Do you know what seat you were in?
Yes, I was in 19A.
19A. Let me call. I'll get down to the gate agent. We'll have him check 19A. Meanwhile, why don't you make sure you look through your coat or whatever. Make sure
good
you
idea.
have it.
Good idea.
And then as soon as we get a call, we'll see what we can do because time is of the essence.
Yeah, it's got all my money, all my credit cards, and I don't have anything with me, so I really need some help.
Hang on, we're going to take care of it. We'll get you through this. This is going to happen.
And thank you.
Often after the role-playing is finished, we ask other participants to comment on the experience. Okay, would any of you have done this differently? Did he say the right thing?
No, it was a really good.
What did he do? What did he do that was so good, that showed this, the qualities?
Acted concerned, for one thing. And was
compassion.
helpful.
It was the combination of emotional support and doing something.
And he did something that was helpful.
And it was logical.
And quick. He understood the timing. Yes.
I really believed him. So I wasn't. I really thought he was going to do it. Not just tell me and then go back to reading the newspaper. So I really, whatever he did, I really believed that he was going to.
What made him convincing?
I don't know, maybe it was the tone of his voice or the look in his eye, but he really seemed to understand that I had lost my wallet. And
he also touched your arm.
Yeah, I seemed to. He repeated back stuff, like he remembered the flight that I was on. So I knew he was listening, and he seemed to have remembered the main parts of my story, and just seemed to be really convincing.
Jim, if this would have happened to you, how would you have felt?
Totally different than I felt under the circumstances in reality, because no one, I'm sure they see it 100 times a day. They probably assumed it had been stolen. It was a waste of time, and they weren't about to waste their time on me.
Okay, what we'd like to do is talk about some inconveniences that people have in airline travel. I've got some cards here, and I'd like to have each of you take a card and a pen, and I'd like you to write down on this card 3 inconveniences that people have when they travel by airline. One of the strategies for getting information from participants is to use a list. We pass out a card, they write down several things, and then the moderator takes that and makes a larger list on a flip chart. All right, Ken, I think you finished. Let's start with you. What are the 3 things you have?
I have being late and missing connections.
Once the larger list is made and everyone can see the items, often a second question is asked for the participants to tell which are the most important or the most significant of all of those that are on the list. Well, it looks like most of our comments, we had a number of them that have talked about late and missing connections. Let's talk a little bit more about that for a moment. The moderator may then choose to mark or circle those items on the flip chart. This technique is particularly helpful when you're trying to identify a larger number of items and then to quickly identify from that larger number which ones are the most relevant to each participant. Another strategy in asking questions is to use a short rating sheet. All right, what I'd like to do is spend a few moments talking about inconveniences. And I have here in front of me, and I'd like to pass around, a list of possible inconveniences that you may have experienced in the last 2 years. And what I'd like you to do is just take a moment and check off how often have you experienced these inconveniences in the past year? So just put a check mark down by rarely or never, sometimes, often, or almost always. In this case, we have just a few questions, and we ask participants to rate their degree of interest or agreement on differing kinds of items. We quickly tabulate those on a sheet and then use this as a springboard for later discussion. I've made a list of these categories, and I'm going to quickly tabulate to find out the frequency that we have. And so I'm going to go around the table very quickly here. And Jim, would you give me your responses? Lost luggage is where?
Rarely.
Okay. Delayed flights?
Often.
Long lines?
Sometimes.
One of the techniques moderators use is to have rapid ways of getting information from people. Through the use of fingers or thumbs or writing words on pieces of paper, you're able to quickly get information from people. Let's take a look at some examples. Okay, now what we'd like to do is I'm going to be announcing or giving the names of a number of inconveniences that people might have. And I'd like you to tell me how frequently you have experienced these in the last 2 years. We're going to use fingers on this. And so what I'd like to do is have you hold up your hands, not right now, but in just a moment when I call for those, and hold up to 5 fingers. If you hold up 5 fingers like this, that means that this happens almost every time. It happens very regularly, almost always. 4 fingers, it happens regularly, but not at every time. 3, about half the time it occurs. 2, it happens occasionally, and 1 finger means that rarely does this happen or never at all. And so I'll be naming one, like for example, the first one is lost luggage. Hold up your hands with how many fingers has this occurred to you in the last couple years? Okay, I see a 1, 1, 2, 2, 1, 1. Okay. Delayed flights. This information is designed to lead you into the focus group to find out the reasons why something might be happening. The critical thing is that you go beyond the initial rating or the initial numbers and find out some of the underlying causes or reasons why people are saying what they do. Okay, what we'd like to do is talk about strategies or solutions that could be done to inconveniences. And I'm going to name a strategy or a possible solution, and what I'd like you to do is tell me by the direction of your thumb whether you agree or disagree with this. If your thumb is up, you agree and you feel that's a positive solution. If your thumb is down, that's not a good solution. If it's in the middle, you're sort of indifferent about it. If you decide to wiggle your thumb, that means you strongly agree or strongly disagree. Another solution is having a designated place for children on the airplane, either at the very front or the very back. Okay, I see agree, a neutral, a strongly agree, a disagree, and a strongly agree. Okay. As participants give their responses, notice that the moderator is actually speaking them out loud. Agree, 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 neutral, agree, neutral. The reason is that this now appears on the audio tape, and it also allows the assistant moderator to make a note of those in the field notes. Another strategy used by moderators is what we call projection, by asking people to indicate by use of animals or objects what something might represent. All right, what I'd like to do is to talk about an airline company. If your airline company that you regularly use was an animal, what kind of an animal would it be?
That's easy, a lion.
A whale.
Let's go back. Sherry, you said a lion. Could you tell me why you said lion? When using this strategy, it's important to be sure that participants give the reason why they're choosing the particular item that they are.
They dominate the schedules, they dominate prices.
Okay.
And that's why I said whale. I saw them as there's a big thing that takes over everything.
Okay.
A skunk.
A skunk.
Right. Because they're mainly interested in themselves, and if you mess with them, you're in deep trouble.
Okay.
At the end of the focus group, there are several strategies moderators can use to conclude the group. One strategy is to ask each participant to reflect and to indicate what were the most important things that were talked about in the conversation.
All right, our final question for today deals, we're going to go around the table with this one. Of all the things we've talked about today, what to you is the most important thing that has been said? It might have been something that you've said, or maybe something you've heard someone else say. And what is it that's most important? And Jim, could we start with you and go around? What is the most important thing you've heard in our discussion today?
I think probably a fairly universal dissatisfaction with the way the airline personnel, people and policies kind of discount us, just come and give us your money, get on, get off, and go away and be quiet. Lack of consideration for us is anything beyond cash flow.
Jim?
I guess that people do have such strong dissatisfaction feelings, and I don't. So I'm thinking that I don't have anything really strongly negative about being inconvenienced, or I still think it's remarkable that you hop on in one town and 2 hours, 4 hours, 12 hours, you hop off in another part of the world. The fact that you get a little bag of pretzels is pretty insignificant in the whole event of going from one place to another. So I'm feeling that I've learned that maybe I'm not paying attention, or maybe I'm wrong because I'm not dissatisfied. So
Ken, you're just young.
you haven't been too positive.
Gene?
Well, Ken, it's funny because when Dick said that question, my thought was that maybe we're all just being too negative. Yes, there are problems. Yes, it's expensive, but the rest of the world does not have the privilege of walking onto a little, piece of equipment and then going any place literally in the world. And that maybe the airlines need to think more about back to the glamour, not glamour, but it's the thrill.
Yes.
It sounds too corny, but the excitement of getting places.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the focus group, the moderator often turns to the person who's been taking notes, the assistant moderator, and invites this person to follow up on any questions that are important in the conversation and to give a very short summary.
We're going to ask Marianne, has been taking notes and recording things. Marianne, did you have any final questions you want to ask this group, and then if you don't, would you give a little brief summary of our group, or some of the key points that we've talked about today?
One of the things I did want to follow up on was there was some discussion about children, and that came up as being kind of one of the frequent things that comes up. What could the airline do about that? Are there things, I know Sherry, you said
Ban
a
them.
different plane, but that's probably not very realistic, but are there things that could be done?
I think that the airlines might try and help parents.
At the end, when this summary is concluded, the assistant turns to the participants in the group and asks for confirmation. Did we hear things correctly?
It was really about interactions with people. Is there anything that I missed, or does that?
No, that sounds really good. Mm-hmm. Okay, nicely done. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Back to you.
All right. Well, that concludes our group today. Thank you very much. We've appreciated your presence. Help yourself to some chocolates on your way out, and have safe and healthy and enjoyable flying in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching our video on a focus group. Moderating a focus group is a challenging task. It involves a lot of things to think about, and sometimes it's like a three-ring circus where you're trying to think of what has been said and what's about to be said and then what's coming in the future. So there's a lot to think about as you do it. This video shows some of the elements that take place in a focus group, but a lot of additional things will remain to be done after the focus group is over. This involved things like doing the analysis and preparing a report at the end of the focus group. Sometimes the participants in a focus group know each other, and other times they're complete strangers. Sometimes you'll have rooms such as the one you saw today, but other times you'll have other kinds of rooms, sometimes without tables, sometimes in restaurants, sometimes in people's homes, sometimes seated around comfortable chairs in someone's living room. Focus groups can be done in many differing kinds of ways. The important thing is that people feel comfortable with each other and feel comfortable in talking about it. The critical things to remember: arrive early so that you have time to set things up and check the logistics to be sure everything is working okay. Get yourself mentally prepared. Focus on the experience and think about the kinds of things that are going to be taking place. Pay attention to what people are saying. When you hear cryptic or vague remarks, probe and ask for some additional information. And finally, enjoy yourself as you do it. There's a lot of things to think about. I'm sure you'll find a focus group to be pleasant and rewarding experience. Thank you for watching, and I hope all of your focus groups go well.